I've spent a lot of time over the last few months thinking about what Surface Duo 3 is going to be like and how the broader public is going to respond to it, whether or not it's actually going to be something that will sell better if they go from being a dual screen device to being a single folding OLED. By the way, when I say single folding OLED, there seems to be a lot of confusion about what I mean whenever I say that. I don't mean there's only a single folding OLED inside and no cover display. There's going to be a cover display as well. I'm just referring to the interior bit. Instead of being two screens, it is a single folding OLED. And then, like I said, there will be a cover display of some sort to make the thing usable as a phone. That's definitely something that is going to be necessary, a necessary evil, if you will. And that will indeed make it a two-screen device, so they could continue calling it Duo based on that very flimsy reason if they wanted to go that route. But at any rate, I digress. If they do indeed go that way, I've been thinking a lot about, what that device would be like and whether or not it's actually going to be something that people are going to want to buy. I mean, obviously, there are already going to be devices like the Z Fold 4, the Z Fold 5 on the market. We may indeed have the Google Pixel Fold already on the market by then. And if we're honest here, this is the Pixel Fold here, and this is sort of a mock-up of a Surface Duo 2 with only a single folding OLED screen. Does that look similar to you? Do those look like similar devices to you? If the software is, not really something special, are people going to want to buy Microsoft's version over Samsung's version over the Google Pixel version here? And so rather than just speculating and guessing about this, what I did is I posted a poll about 3 weeks ago, and we've gotten right about 1,000 votes on that poll. And I think that the results are relatively interesting. I said, would you buy a Surface Duo if it has a single folding OLED screen like the Z Fold? And the results are as follows. Like I said, with nearly 1,000 votes, yes, I would buy this Surface Duo received, kind of surprisingly to me actually, 30% of the vote. That is roughly 1/3 of the vote. We are missing the 3.3 repeating, but anyways, it is still about 1/3 of the vote. No did in fact receive 1/3 of the vote. So there's a 3% difference there. 3% more people said outright, no, I'm not buying this, versus the people that said yes. And then the more interesting of these options, I think, only if the software emulates two screens, was 34%. So the majority, granted it is a very narrow majority, but the majority said maybe. Only though if it does in fact emulate a dual screen experience. And look, I've talked about this sort of a million times at this point, but I will go over it one more time very, very briefly to kind of describe to you what exactly I'm talking about, just in case you maybe are new here and you have not heard this explanation. This is the Galaxy Z Fold 4. And basically how Z Fold 4 works is that whenever you launch an application, you're going to launch that application in full screen by default. If you want to launch a second application, you can grab an application off of your app drawer, or there's several other ways to actually enter the split screening view. Something like that also works. And then there you go. You are now split screening an app. And of course, you can rotate this thing around, and now you've got a pretty decent little split screening, dual screen emulated kind of idea. Now, what we're talking about here with a single screened Duo 3 is a scenario where perhaps there is a way to toggle this, because you might not want this all the time, but maybe there's a quick setting up here or something. Maybe in a dream world, there's a physical button. Oh my Lord, that would be amazing. You press a button and suddenly a line appears down the middle of your screen. Your launcher actually goes bloop and divides itself, and it now begins emulating the two-screen experience. And then if I selected, Twitter over on this side, it's going to actually launch it on that side of the screen, leaving this half of the screen still on the launcher, still able to scroll around to then launch an app on that side of the screen. And before you say, Shane, that's crazy, that could never work, that is exactly what is happening on Surface Duo 2. As I've said a million times, Android does not see Surface Duo 2 as a dual screen device. It sees Surface Duo and Surface Duo 2 as a single screened tablet device, and that software I'm describing is what is happening on Duo already. So, could they implement that software with a simple toggle switch to move back and forth between auto spanning mode and auto split screening mode, I guess would be how you would put it. I think that they definitely could. And if they did, right now we're taking 34% and we're adding it to 30%. Suddenly 64% of Duo 2 users are optimistic and say that they would definitely consider at least buying this device. And I think that's going to be important. Now, another aspect of this that needs to be hammered out is that we're talking about a potential for 64% of Duo users moving over to Duo 3. And you may say, well, they're leaving a third of their users behind. But we got to keep something in mind, guys. The Duo specific community is a very small community. And I've kind of talked about this in prior videos. The Duo community has been burned in a couple of different places, and we're like, why does Microsoft not care about us? Well, I hate to say this, but it's because we are very few and far between. The people that are buying the Samsung products are many, many orders of magnitude larger than the Duo community. And those are the people that they're going to want to go after with these sorts of changes. So they're trying to leave behind their small user base, their small, tiny little pond, and they're trying to jump into a much larger pond where there are many more fish to potentially catch. And if they leave behind some original Duo users to gain many more new users, that's a trade-off that I think that they are willing to make. And like I kind of outlined in a prior video where I asked the question, are Duo and Duo 2 users effectively beta testers? I think that was something that they kind of had in their back pocket the entire time. They never really tried to push Duo and Duo 2 to the forefront. I mean, the biggest thing that we get in terms of marketing are little tweets like this from the Surface account where they mention that Duo exists occasionally, right? They never really tried to sell a ton of Microsoft Surface Duo and Surface Duo 2s because I think that they always knew they were taking a risk with the device and that they wanted to be able to kind of put the thing out there, gather some data. But then look, if the market was moving in another direction and folding OLED became very popular and became the standard, they wanted to be able to pivot away from it without having spent millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars marketing a device that they didn't actually want to continue with. So they kind of kept it light, they gathered their data, and they made their decision. I think it's pretty clear that's what has happened here. When you're launching a device like Duo, you're going to try to minimize your risk a little bit unless you're like crazy confident you're about to revolutionize the smartphone world, which I don't think that they were all that confident that they were about to do. So now when it comes to moving on to Duo 3, this thing being more like the Z Fold, the question now becomes, can they indeed compete with the big fish in this much larger pond, right? The Fold's already there. It's established. It's already selling pretty darn well. Samsung seems to be quite bullish on the projections for it. We do, like I mentioned, have the Google Pixel Fold coming presumably sometime late this year. There are now rumors swirling around that OnePlus is going to be bringing a folding phone, a couple of folding phones to the United States very, very soon, the V series. So suddenly this market's going to go from very thin, only really one device in the United States, to not necessarily crowded, but something that, where before they were the only dual screen phone in town, they're not going to be the only folding screen in town. So it's going to be absolutely paramount importance for them to get this stuff right and for them to nail a software experience that either does what I'm outlining here and in this video or something else that's going to grab people and pull them over. Because if they don't do it, we have to wonder where this project is going. And I'll leave you with one more thing to think about. I'm a sports fan. And when we're looking at maybe newer athletes, college football players coming into the pros, we talk about something like floors and ceilings. We say this athlete maybe has a lower floor, but he also has a higher ceiling. What that means is in the pros, they might be terrible, but if they can put it together athletically, they might be great as well, right? Or you may say this player has a lower ceiling, so they're never going to be the next, Michael Vick. But they also have a fairly high floor. You kind of know what you're getting out of them, right? And I wonder if that's kind of what Microsoft is thinking here. Duo is sort of a low floor, high ceiling type device, but a folding Duo and a Z Fold Duo might have a higher floor than the original Duo. And that might be what is kind of enticing them to come there. They may be thinking, yeah, dual screen was cool and all, but folding OLED already has an established market, and we think that even if we only capture a tiny fraction of that market, we're still going to sell more of that device than we were selling of the original Duo concept. Just something perhaps to consider as we move forward. Guys, hit that subscribe button before you leave so you don't miss out on more content just like this. I will see you on the next one. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.